Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today we're going to be taking a look at another micro brand. I think it's about the 7th or 8th I've featured on the show, and I always love looking at micro brands because they're usually watches designed by enthusiasts, and I've got to tell you, they always have my admiration and respect because I know how difficult it is because I've looked into it, to make your own watch, and it's an extremely expensive process. You've got to be really committed, especially in today's market. It's a very tough thing to do, and I just find the offerings in the micro brands usually a lot more endearing, a lot more personal. It really is their passion manifested in something, not just a product of a nameless, faceless giant corporation, something designed by committee. It's usually a lot more personal. So I really appreciate the micro brands. Today we're looking at a watch, an aviation watch. Actually, I have it here. This is the above ground level from Ferro and Company. Very interesting, very unique design. Today we are taking a look at another fascinating new micro brand. Well, relatively new. This is actually their third offering in terms of releases, and this is actually on Kickstarter as we speak. So I'll leave a link in the description below, so please do go and check it out. But I was really captivated by this particular watch's design. Now, at the moment, there's two versions. There's the quartz and the automatic of this new watch. This is the above ground level AGL from Ferro and Company, which is a watchmaker based, actually it's a partnership between two brothers based in Vancouver, and is heavily inspired by 1940s aviation, as you can tell. But what really fascinates me is just the sheer amount of different styles and kind of inspirations that's come together really well in a very modestly priced watch. Now, as I mentioned, there's two versions or two releases at the moment. There's quartz and the automatic. The automatic is a three-hander with a date, I believe, very much more Flieger-esque, whereas the quartz is what we have in for today. Now, usually, you guys know I prefer mechanical automatic timepieces, but this quartz just spoke to me. Such a unique character and a lot of style traits from watches of all different genres and ages that I really enjoy. So let's go over the dimensions and specifications, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this very interesting aesthetic that's going on here. Let's get the dimensions out the way first. And I have, of course, got sellotape on the end of the calipers. We got a diameter of 42 millimeters. We got a thickness or height of 14. Lug to lug, we're looking at 47.6. Lug width of 22 millimeters. So size-wise, it is very contemporary. And I think for an aviation watch, it's proportioned and scaled beautifully. I think any smaller, it'll be difficult to read. Any larger, it'll be cumbersome. I do think they've got the size spot on. So that's the first thing I usually complain about watches. You know me, guys. I prefer them smaller. But this really is, size-wise, actually, I happen to be wearing my Flighty at the moment. It's very similar in scale to the Flighty. Let's have a look at that stunning dial, which is what got me intrigued about this watch. Now, first of all, we should address this very beautifully domed, actually this is a double domed sapphire crystal there. It has AR coating on the inside, and it really acts like a lens on that dial. Immediately you'll notice it's a sandwich dial, which is something you don't see that often. You'll see it, whenever you see these kind of dials, you immediately associate it with Panerai, and in fact there is a lot of Panerai-ish feel to this. The dial itself is a beautiful matted black with the subdials kind of recessed in that sandwich layer. Ferro and Company, AGL signed. I love the way it's curved. Another little nod to the past, and echoes the curvature of the inner bezel there nicely. I really got to say, I love the layout, and especially the way the crystal kind of draws you in. Very nice indeed. I also like the way that the end of the or the part that attaches the hands is blacked out, so it kind of gives the impression that they're floating, which is a really cool little touch. The case itself is entirely stainless steel, 316L of course. Completely done in a brushed finish, which I think adds to its kind of tool pilot look style really, except for the pushers for the chronograph, and of course this lovely onion crown which is signed F with a bead blasted finish, just to differentiate and add a little bit of variation. I think the case is really quite interesting, kettle shaped case, and it reminds me very much of kind of some of the pre Aquas divers from Oris. And then we have the lugs are kind of trench watch style lugs, so harkening back really to the early days of wristwatches. Reminds me of the wristlets of the early days of wristwatches. This particular version comes on a handmade Italian genuine leather strap, which is very nicely done with contrasting stitching. Again, I think beautifully matches the color theme of this particular watch. I should mention there are 5 versions of the above ground level chronograph. There's a really cool DLC blacked out version. There's a white dial with the basically inverted with the tachymeter in black, and then there's a green dial and a blue dial, but I really like this black dial version. It just spoke to me. We have the V style layout for the chronograph, the minutes on the 9 o'clock, 1/10 of a second at the 6, and then the seconds for the main time at the 3 o'clock. And at the top we have a double, actually let's engage the chronograph and then you can see it in action. And at the top we have the double date in big, which is really nice, and I think just adds to the symmetry. There's a really nice bit of symmetry going on. Then we have these stunning skeletonized plunger hands, which are of course lumed. Absolutely fantastic, and I'm so glad they actually did beneath the top layer of the dial, the kind of middle bit of the sandwich if you will, is also lumed. So we have lumed Arabic numerals running around. Actually, they're not Arabic, they're stenciled, which is very kind of aviation looking, very fitting. So as you can see, I stopped the chronograph and it gives me a precise, so I've timed 1 minute, 3 seconds, 0.5. So very precise, and if I just let it go, it keeps going. And actually, let's reset that. So as we're talking about the lume, let's quickly have a look at the lume shot. Very bright, very responsive, and fun. But I gotta say, the hour and minute hand, especially the way it's framed and still skeletonized, very unique. I haven't seen lume like this on a watch that I've had in before. So very cool indeed. Anyway, let's take it back to the studio. Okay, on the back we have screw down case back with a bead blasted section with AGL, of course, above ground level, simply signed, Swiss made, Ferro and Company, and then of course 100-meter water resistance written there. The crown, that beautiful large onion crown, which is very solid feeling, is a screw down crown as well. So you can see now I'm cycling through, and as we flip to 20, it will change on both date wheels. Very cool. Kind of reminds me of the date windows on a Lange. That's the only other time I've actually ever seen this kind of date window, especially watches in the flesh, which is completely the different end of the market, but it does remind me of that a little bit, well, stylistically at least. The inner bezel is fixed and slopes downwards, which I really think it frames the main dial beautifully. I also love the little accents of color. We have a red triangle at the 12 o'clock, matching the split second register at the 6. Very simply signed, Swiss made. There's a lot of balance here, and the numerals aren't too cut off, with the exception of the 10 maybe. So that's nice, because I know that kind of bugs, you know, that annoys some people. The dome sapphire just really finishes and continues the shape of this case beautifully. It's certainly very unique. It reminds me a bit like a Panerai. It reminds me, there's a little bit of Navi timer going on with the inner bezel there. A nod to German watches with that date window. The plunger hands are very much aviation. The skeletonized plunger hands. Not to mention the trench style watch lugs. Very, very cool indeed. So let's discuss the movement. Well, inside we have the Ronda 5040.D. It has a battery life of 54 months, which is really quite something. It's a 13 joule Swiss-made workhorse trusted movement. So this is actually the first release from Ferro of the 3 watches they've worked on that is actually manufactured in Switzerland. They've decided to kind of step up the quality from their last releases, which is really cool, and you can definitely feel it in the watch. It's incredibly solid. I'm quite intrigued to see their automatic piece and see how that compares. Let's quickly pop it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, and there we go. So for a 42mm watch, it wears incredibly well. The lugs don't stick out too far. I forgot to mention we've got a nice little signed buckle there. However, it's all about that dial. It's just ravishing. It's really quite striking. It catches your attention. And it certainly doesn't feel like, I think the price tag on this is about just under $300. You'll have to check when it's actually released. But it certainly does not feel like that. It feels much more expensive, quite refreshing, and I really, really like it. It's very, very fun. Wears extremely comfortably. It wears no different really to my Flighty, even though it's slightly bigger. It weighs about 90 grams, so, you know, not really noticeable. And certainly with that Swiss Ronda in there, the sapphire with that beautiful brushed case, definitely take the punishment of a very active lifestyle, and actually would make a lot of sense using it as a flight watch actually. Okay, so let's take it back to the studio and summarize the watch. First of all, I think this is great value for money. I think at just below $300, it's priced perfectly. You're getting a lot for your money. The quality's there. It's very unique. It certainly draws attention. It has great presence on the wrist. It's unlike anything I've seen out there so far. I love the styling of it. It's got a little bit of Breguet Ehrenveil in there. Certainly some Panerai in there. What else? A tiny bit of Navi Timer perhaps. A lot of watches I really like. It has a charm to it, and that's a very difficult thing to manufacture, to produce. Is charm, is the romance of a piece, and I think you don't really get it until you have it in the flesh. The pictures intrigued me enough for me to ask, you know, would you mind sending it in? I would love to take a look. But in the flesh, it works. It really does work. I love everything about it, and I never thought I would like this style of lugs. Not typically my thing, but you guys know I'm a sucker for aviation, especially chronograph. So yeah, I really do like this piece. Guys, Ferro, really a capo lavoro. I love it. I struggle to think of any other negatives. I think for the price, unbeatable, definitely unbeatable. Anyway guys, I'm going to leave it there. There's not really much else to say. I adore it. Very intrigued and optimistic for Ferro. I want to see what other watches they have, and good luck on your Kickstarter. I think you've got a very promising watch here. I think people are going to love this, and despite its 42mm size, I'm going to put it on right now actually, it wears like a charm. And the charm is there. That's one of the things I love about it. It's just got bucket loads of charm, you know. There we go. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Oh, I love it. Absolutely adore it. Anyway guys, best of luck to Ferro. Fantastic offering. I'll leave a link to their Kickstarter if you feel like supporting them. I'm quite tempted to put in an order myself, although I really should not. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there. Please don't forget to add your thoughts, queries, questions, opinions, all the rest of it in the comments below. I love hearing your feedback. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. And as always guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.